Weapons Company, 81's platoon out in Camp Pendleton, California. I joined a few months after September 11th, feeling like I think most people in the country did at the time, filled with a sense of patriotism and retribution and the desire to do something. That coupled with the fact I wasn't doing anything. I was 17, just graduated from high school that past summer, living in the back room of my parents' house, paying rent in the small town I was raised in northern Indiana called Mishawaka. I could spell that later for people who are interested. Mishawaka is many good things, but cultural hub of the world it is not. So my only exposure to theater and film was limited to the plays I did in high school and Blockbuster Video. May she rest in peace. I was serious enough about acting that I auditioned for Juilliard when I was a senior in high school. Didn't get in, determined college wasn't for me, and applied nowhere else, which was a genius move. I also did that Hail Mary LA acting odyssey that I always heard stories about of actors moving to LA with like $7 and finding work and successful careers. I got as far as Amarillo, Texas before my car broke down. I spent all my money repairing it, finally made it to Santa Monica, not even LA. Stayed for 48 hours wandering the beach, basically, got in my car, drove home, thus ending my acting career. So, 17, Mishawaka, parents' house, paying rent, selling vacuums, telemarketing, cutting grass at the local 4-H fairgrounds. This was my world going into September 2001. So after the 11th and feeling an overwhelming sense of duty and just being pissed off in general at myself, my parents, the government, not having confidence, not having a respectable job, my shitty mini fridge that I just drove to California and back, I joined the Marine Corps and I loved it. I love being a Marine. It's one of the things I'm most proud of having done in my life. Firing weapons was cool. Driving and detonating expensive things was great. But I found I loved the Marine Corps the most for the thing I was looking for the least when I joined, which was the people. These weird dudes, a motley crew of characters from a cross-section of the United States that on the surface I had nothing in common with. And over time, all the political and personal bravado that led me to the military dissolved. And for me, the Marine Corps became synonymous with my friends. And then a few years into my service and months away from deploying to Iraq, I dislocated my sternum in a mountain biking accident and had to be medically separated. And for those who are never in the military, they find this hard to understand. But then being told I wasn't going to deploy to Iraq or Afghanistan was very devastating for me. It's a very clear image of leaving the base hospital on a stretcher and my entire platoon was waiting outside to see if I was okay. And then suddenly I was a civilian again. I knew I wanted to give acting another shot because, again, this is me. I thought all civilian problems are small compared to the military. What can you really bitch about now? It's hot. Someone should turn on the air conditioner. This coffee line is too long. I was a Marine. I knew how to survive. I would go to New York and become an actor, and if things didn't work out, I'd live in Central Park and dumpster dive behind Panera Bread. So I re-auditioned for Juilliard, and this time I was lucky enough I got in, but I was surprised by how complex the transition was from military to civilian. And I was relatively healthy. I can't imagine going through that process on top of a mental or physical injury. But regardless, it was difficult, in part because I was in acting school. I couldn't justify going to voice and speech class, throwing imaginary balls of energy at the back of the room, doing acting exercises where I gave birth to myself while my friends were serving without me overseas. But also because I didn't know how to apply the things I learned in the military to a civilian context. I mean that both practically and emotionally. Practically, I had to get a job. And I was an infantry Marine where you're shooting machine guns and firing mortars. There's not a lot of places you can put those skills in the civilian world. And emotionally in that, I struggled to find meaning. In the military, everything has meaning. Everything you do is either steeped in tradition or has a practical purpose. And you can't smoke in the field because you don't want to give away your position. You don't touch your face because you have to maintain a personal level of health and hygiene. You face this way when colors plays out of respect to those people who went before you. You walk this way because of this. You talk this way because of this. Your uniform is worn and maintained to the inch, and how diligently you followed those rules spoke volumes about the kind of Marine you were. Your rank said something about your history and the respect you had earned. In the civilian world, there's no rank. Here you're just another body, and I felt like I constantly had to prove my worth all over again. And the respect civilians were giving me while I was in uniform didn't exist while I was out of it. There didn't seem to be a sense of community. Whereas in the military, I felt this sense of community. How often in the civilian world are you put in a life or death situation with your closest friends and they constantly demonstrate that they're not going to abandon you? And meanwhile, at acting school, I was really, for the first time, discovering playwrights and characters and plays that had nothing to do with the military, but were somehow describing my military experience in a way that before to me was indescribable. And I felt myself becoming less aggressive as I was able to put words to feelings for the first time and realizing what a valuable tool that was. And when I was reflecting on my time in the military, I wasn't first thinking on the stereotypical drills and discipline and pain of it, but rather these small, intimate, human moments, these moments of great feeling. Friends going AWOL because they missed their families, friends getting divorced, grieving together, celebrating together, all within the backdrop of the military. And I saw my friends battling these circumstances, and I watched the anxiety it produced in them and me, not being able to express our feelings about it. And the military and theater communities are actually very similar. You have a group of people trying to accomplish a mission greater than themselves. It's not about you. You have a role. You have to know your role within that team. Every team has a leader or director. Sometimes they're smart, sometimes they're not. You're forced to be intimate with complete strangers in a short amount of time, the self-discipline, the self-maintenance. I thought, how great would it be to create a space that combined these two seemingly dissimilar communities, that brought entertainment to a group of people that, considering their occupation, could handle something a bit more thought-provoking than the typical mandatory fun events that I remember being voluntold to go to in the military. All well-intended, but slightly offensive events like win a date with a San Diego Chargers cheerleader, where you answer questions about pop culture. And if you get it right, you win a date, which was a chaperone walk around the parade deck with this, already married, pregnant cheerleader. And nothing against cheerleaders. I love cheerleaders. The point is more, how great would it be to have theater presented through characters that were accessible without being condescending? So we started this nonprofit called Arts in the Armed Forces, where we tried to do that. Tried to join these two seemingly dissimilar communities. We pick a play or select monologues from contemporary American plays that are diverse in age and race, like a military audiences, grab a group of incredible theater-trained actors, arm them with incredible material, keep production value as minimal as possible, no sets, no costumes, no lights, just reading it, to throw all the emphasis on the language, and to show that theater can be created at any setting. It's a powerful thing, getting in a room with complete strangers and reminding ourselves of our humanity, and that self-expression is just as valuable a tool as a rifle on your shoulder. And for an organization like the military that prides itself on having acronyms for acronyms can get lost in the sauce when it comes to explaining a collective experience. And I can think of no better community to arm with a new means of self-expression than those protecting our country. So we've gone all over the United States and the world, from Walter Reed in Bethesda, Maryland, to Camp Pendleton, to Camp Arif John in Kuwait, to USAG Bavaria, on and off Broadway theaters in New York. And for the performing artists we bring, it's a window into a culture that they otherwise would not have had exposure to. And for the military, it's the exact same. And in doing this for the past 6 years, I'm always reminded that acting is many things. It's a craft, it's a political act, it's a business, it's whatever adjective I guess is most applicable to you, but it's also a service. I didn't get to finish mine. So whenever I get to be of service to this ultimate service industry, the military, for me, again, there's not many things better than that. Thank you.